What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is Will, there's Casino, and we are back with the Only Sports Podcast. That's right, the Only Sports Podcast. As you might have noticed, my background is different. I'm not in a different room. I just moved my desk from the middle of the room to where it's supposed to be, which is why I have this very bland background that I will fix by next episode. But Casino, how you doing today?
I'm doing actually really good today. I'm back home and back from my vacation. I have some me time, which is great. Which let's get into that. So we didn't have our second episode. It was one of those things where, you take your entire equipment down on vacation with you and you're like, just tell them that you're going to have some me time. And I told them leading up to this, hey, I'm going to go do an hour and a half, 2 hour podcast. Cool. Everybody was on board. Nope. As soon as we get there, it's no, you can't do that. You got to go do this. Oh no, you can't do that. Okay, it's like okay, perfect. So I don't get to do my podcast. Yeah. So I apologize, everybody, for that. I'm not blaming anybody whatsoever. Let's just say I love being married, don't you guys?
And on my end, Casino, because I switched, it also means I switched my double screen. So now anytime I'm looking at the screen, it just looks like I'm looking at you. So anytime I'm looking at my second screen, I'm actually just looking at Casino. But from here on out, we will always have a podcast. I will upload on Tuesdays and Fridays. That's going to be the new thing. We'll do solo shows if we have to. My wife was willing to fill in, which would have been great because she knows nothing about sports. So we will have guests.
No, but we have talked about that on bringing on guests in case one of us are not able to do this, because of our kids or our wives or everything. Which also, why? What's up?
Mostly the wives.
Yeah. And do you want to explain why you have a different background?
Oh, that's true. My wife did not like the desk in the middle of the room, which is where it had to be to show my bookcase, which is now in front of me. I think I can do a thing where I flip the laptop the other way. I'm going to try that for next episode and keep the desk where it is. We'll see. That doesn't matter. But we are back. Huge weekend in sports that actually started on Thanksgiving. How was your Thanksgiving, Casino?
It was nice. So actual Thanksgiving Day, we just went to the zoo with the kid, took her for the first time. So that was pretty cool. She didn't give a shit, which was great. She's too young to distinguish, that's the giraffe that I strangle at home. There's a giraffe that I could strangle in real life. She didn't get the connection.
And that's why you're now banned from the zoo.
No, I'm banned from the zoo because I yanked a tiger. A lion. It was a lion.
Yeah.
No, they were all sleeping. Somebody already yanked them too much. They all passed out. This is a family-friendly podcast, everybody. No, but it was
no one ever said that. No one ever said that.
We didn't do much on Thursday. Friday, we had it was just 6 of us. That was it. Kept it nice and easy. And then the rest of the weekend, traveled. California is large, and it's like, I'm gonna go visit this friend. I'm gonna go visit this friend, and guess who has to drive?
Yeah.
And guess who has to pay for gas? Guess who? Anyway, I love my wife. Anyway, no, it was great. How about yours? What'd you do?
Well, I had COVID, so the last podcast we recorded was Tuesday, I believe. And I literally had COVID until my family abandoned me. I live with my wife and 2 children, obviously, and then my wife's my wife's grandma lives with us. So my wife's grandma, the 2 kids, all left for a week, which would have been nice if I wasn't just slowly dying in a room. And
if you remember the last episode, you should have watched it before this episode. He said he was doing just fine. Mm-hmm.
That's true. Yeah, dude. Ironically, on Wednesday, the day after, and Thursday, it's like I finally got hit with the COVID symptoms, which was just my entire body felt like I had done like a full body workout at the gym, and I was just like sore as shit. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I felt like shit. Saturday, I finally tested negative. Sunday, I was like fully negative, took 3 tests within 24 hours. All of them were negative, and then I woke up this morning with a different cold, but I am still negative. So now I just caught a separate illness away from COVID. So that's why my nose is stuffy and I probably sound like it's stuffy. But yeah, so it's just been great. Just been a week of just sitting and not moving and being like, "Oh man, I'll get to that when it's 2 p.m." And then I look at the clock and it's like 1:30, and then the next time I look at the clock it's 6:45 and I'm like, "How the hell did that happen?" So, it's been a struggle, Casino. But
Let's get to
enough
some sports.
enough about us. Let's get into the sports. Um, you know what? Let's start actually with college football because I
I'm
feel
cool with
like
that.
that
That was
maybe one of the best
insanity.
weekends of college football I've ever watched.
I would
Uh,
agree.
just I mean, teams lost left and right. It was glorious unless you were fans of those teams. So we had we'll start with the big games, which was number one, Georgia destroying Georgia Tech. Everybody expected that. This was rivalry week, so you had a lot of in-state rivalry games. The biggest one, however, was the next game, which was number two, Michigan at now number five, Ohio State. It was 2-3, obviously, before these teams met, but Michigan goes into Ohio State, and I thought at halftime it was these two teams were within a field goal of each other,
Oh
and
yeah.
then all of a sudden it goes third and fourth quarter, and Michigan is like a 75-yard touchdown pass, an 80-yard touchdown run, a 75-yard touchdown run, and it was just every single time it felt like Michigan touched the ball, they went off for 70+ yard touchdown. This was a crazy game, Casino.
Oh no, I watched 95% of it. Um Even when I was, yeah, I was listening to it. I wasn't always watching it, but I was listening to because I was driving in California. But yeah, no, it was intense.
And now we have so after that game, now Michigan is I honestly thought after that game and beating a top five opponent that handily, I honestly think they should have moved up to one past Georgia. Georgia has some good wins on its record, but even when they demolished Tennessee, they still only won 27-13. And then they also beat when was it? Oh, they destroyed Oregon week one, like
Hmm.
49-3. So,
And
but
we'll
they
get to
haven't
that
really
game.
had,
Whew.
they haven't really had some as stiff a competition as when they beat Tennessee. And Tennessee is now a two-loss team. Yeah, Tennessee lost two, and the way Michigan destroyed Ohio State, I really thought they would leapfrog Georgia, but I guess Georgia hasn't really done anything to warrant dropping to two. But the top four right now, which we'll get into the playoffs, is number one, Georgia, number two, Michigan State, number three, TCU, and number four is USC.
You mean Michigan, not Michigan State?
Oh, yes, Michigan. I'm sorry. So it's Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC, and then the
I
three.
like that. I would like it to end like that because I mean, outside of Georgia, you have three teams that aren't always in it.
Yeah. Well, it's also, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, Pac 12, which I also really like.
That would be fun. Yeah, you get to
and this
represent
is why,
from everywhere.
well, this is why I always think the playoffs should be six teams. I mean, you can go to 8, you can go to 10, but I think 6 would be like the perfect number because then you would have all 5 power conferences able to be represented, and then like that 6 wild card team that is just the best team that didn't win their conference, right?
Right. So let me ask you this. I mean, uh, do you think USC should be four? Or I mean, I know Ohio State just lost to Michigan, but I mean, Michigan's a good team. They're an undefeated team. So now they have the same amount of losses as USC, and USC is sitting fourth. So like, where do you think this? Because I mean, I know that they beat UCLA and Notre Dame, who are ranked, but I do think Notre
Yeah.
Dame is overranked, and UCLA I think is right where they should be in their rankings. But what do you think on that?
What is it? I do think that USC should be above Ohio State only because Ohio State lost so badly at home. I think
Okay.
I think if Ohio State would have lost in Michigan, you could make the case for their one spot above, and then you just flip these two. But because they were at home and they lost by what, 3 touchdowns, I don't think you could justify being like, well, it was only one loss, but let's put him in the championship game, which or
Well, here
the
is so
playoffs.
USC they pretty much they have their next game is against Utah, who is their only loss this year. Again, only by 1 point.
Yeah.
It was a 42-43 final back in October. So I think this coming on the second here, this you beat Utah. I think you beat the team that beat you earlier in the year. I think you solidify where you need to be.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also the interesting part is I think all four of these teams have legit tough matchups like this coming week because
Mm-hmm.
LSU, they lost again this week, but they lost to a really good what is it? South Carolina team, I believe. They lost to a really good, no, I'm sorry, a really good Texas A&M team that had beaten another ranked opponent the week before. So Texas A&M was running, they're not a good team, but they're good. They've been good the past 2-3 weeks. So
Oh, yeah. I mean that's gonna be a fun one. Georgia LSU. I mean, it's in Georgia, so that's a that's gonna be a fun one.
yeah, I think
Michigan, they don't
LSU
really
is
have much. I
good.
mean, Michigan, they've got Purdue coming up. I think that's gonna be easy. TCU, they're at home, but they do have a formidable opponent in uh, uh, Kansas State University.
And
Um,
Kansas State is good, ranked 13th. So
I mean, yeah, I mean, and these could be fun ones here. And then when do
and wait, I'm sorry. I was talking about South Carolina, not
oh
not uh who was I just talking about? Who just played LS, who just beat not Texas A&M. Sorry, I was talking about
mm,
South Carolina.
got
South
it.
Carolina was the one that beat ranked opponents like back to back. And they have like Rattler, I believe, as well, the douchebag that used to be at Oklahoma.
Go
So
Gamecocks, go Gamecocks.
but yeah, so I think honestly, I think like you said, I think Michigan rolls this week, and I think Georgia, TCU, and USC are all on upset alert. I could definitely see a scenario where LSU beats Georgia. I could see a scenario where Kansas State beats TCU, and then I could also see a scenario where Utah beat USC, especially because they've already beat them. I mean, it was by 1 point, but it's not like it was a 10-11 game. It was still 43 to
Mm-hmm.
42. And after the
So let me ask you this: I'm with Alabama winning this week. Do you think there's any way Alabama gets in?
um well, see, this is the thing. It becomes so I love chaos, right?
Ugh,
Especially in college
yeah,
football.
and I hate you
I
for it.
I do not want chaos this week. I want these four in the playoff games. I want all four of these teams to win. I'm not a fan of any of these teams, like in terms of like who I root for, but I want these four teams to win just because, like you said, it's kind of a fresh matchup, except for, Georgia obviously won last year, but they're still like the powerhouse, the SEC, you know, representative. So I would much rather have a Georgia team that I feel like deserves to be there over a 2-loss Alabama team or a
Oh,
2-loss Clemson team that I felt has been overrated this entire
oh,
year.
Clemson, they're done. They're done.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like of
They
any of
just
the
lost. They
teams that
just lost
are,
to the Gamecocks. They're done.
yeah, or over like a Tennessee, a Clemson. I think Washington would be interesting. I've always hated Penn State. I can't believe Penn State's still a college after all that shit that happened a couple years ago. But I want to see Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC, but if Georgia, TCU, USC, let's say worst case scenario, they all lose, then it becomes who the fuck do you let in this thing? Like,
Oh, right.
if so, it would obviously Michigan would jump up to 1. I feel like Ohio State would then jump up to, I don't think you could. If you would just move those 3 up, like if Michigan, or no, I'm saying if Georgia, TCU, USC all lost, TCU would immediately drop to like 10 because the committee hates TCU. So they would immediately drop out of it. They'd maybe be like 11 or 12. TCU would be fucking done.
I want to see
Georgia,
them make it so bad though.
I know, so
I
do I.
do.
Georgia, I feel like would still make it in. I feel like they dropped to 4. So if Georgia lost, Michigan would go to 1, Georgia would go to 4. That means there would be 2 spots in there, and I really feel like it'd be Ohio State, Alabama would be the ones that would move up. And then it would be Georgia, or no, then it'd be Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, which would be a weird matchup because then it would be like Ohio State, Alabama didn't win their championship games. Georgia lost in their championship game, and then Michigan would be the only one that was like quote unquote legit. So I don't know. I don't think there's a scenario where all 3 of these teams lose this weekend, but it's definitely a possibility, which I don't like because I like this Final Four right here. As long as you keep,
Oof, sorry, burp.
as long as you keep Ohio State and Alabama out of these top 4, like Alabama this year has just, they're a good team. Obviously, it's a, Nick Saban coach team, so they are always going to be a good team, but it just doesn't, you're giving up 52 points to Tennessee, which has been proven to be like overrated from what they were when you played them. And then you're also losing to an LSU team that again just lost to they just lost to Texas A&M by 16 or 17 points.
It was something like that.
Teams. So it's just like if you let that 2-loss Alabama team into this playoff scenario, I think you've lost all credibility as a committee. Like
100%.
How the hell Alabama is still ranked number 6 in this, like over a Tennessee team that beat them? I don't, again, there's just always been a bias against Alabama. Everybody who isn't an Alabama football fan knows it. Like, it's garbage. But any other thoughts on college football casino?
No, pretty much covers it, man. It was fun though. Oregon.
I'm done with Oregon.
Oh yeah, no, they didn't. All they did was win, and they were in that championship game, and for their conference, and they did not. They got upset by Oregon State, and they were up. They were up. What was
they were up? Let me get my calculator out here.
I had it here for a sec. I mean, I watched the whole second half of this game.
Oh yeah, no, it was a good game. They were up 31 to 10 at one point, or 31 to 17 at one point, and then
it was 31 to 10.
So then Oregon State, because I agree, I watched this game too. It was a good game. No, it wasn't a good game until the fourth quarter. And then it was like, what the hell is going on here? And then Oregon State scores 21 unanswered points. I believe the Oregon Ducks started the fourth quarter with a field goal.
No, they did 28 unanswered because, I mean, they had the field goal, I guess, in there.
Oh, man. But just like... I think so that game not only knocked Oregon out of any talk of going to the playoffs, but also I feel like it knocked Bo Nix out of any talk for a Heisman. I think the Heisman at this point, it's got to be the USC quarterback Caleb Williams. Like he's shown up in every big game this season. Even in that Utah game, he wasn't bad. Like they just got beat by Utah, but again, they put up 42 points. He had 5 touchdowns in that game, so it's not like his fault that they lost. So I really think it's his. I think the Heisman's his. I don't see anybody making a case or doing anything to, outperform him in the last week of the season. But yeah, good. It's been a really interesting college football season, and for it to end like this week, where I believe there was like 5 teams in the top 10 who all lost, like again, against their division rivals or their
This
hometown rivals.
this has been and not just because we started the podcast, so I'm following it more. This is one of the best, if not the best, college football season I've seen in the last decade.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And you know what? Fuck everybody who was saying, oh, we shouldn't pay college athletes, we shouldn't do that. The NIL rules and how now schools can just give like sponsorships to their players is 100% the reason why now college football feels a lot more like balanced, right? Where there's
Oh yeah.
more opportunities for all these random teams to be good now. And it's not just the same. I talked about this on last episode when you had to get off early, Casino, but I'm so glad we're out of the era where, do you remember a couple years ago, it must have been at least 10 years at this point, where the national championship game was Alabama versus LSU after they'd already played each other earlier in the season, and the game was like 9-6, and it was just like everybody knew they weren't the best 2 teams in the nation, and it was just that SEC bias bullshit, and it was the fucking worst. I'm so glad we're finally past like that era of college football, because that was some of the worst shit ever. Yeah,
I would agree. I can agree with that.
all right.
Let's move on. Where do you want to go next?
I think we should stick with football and move to the NFL, which, before we start talking about this week, have you seen the slate of games for next week? This might be one of the best weeks of NFL football coming up. Like, the matchups are insane. Next week, even we have a good Thursday night game, which is crazy. Bills at your Patriots. And then we also have, just in terms of good games, Jets, Vikings, Titans, Eagles, Dolphins, 49ers, Chiefs, Bengals, and then I believe, and then Raiders, Chargers is always interesting. So, like, crazy that we finally get like a week where it's like all the good teams are playing each other. Like that, this Sunday is going to be really good. But as far as this week, we have to start on Thanksgiving with the 3 games that were played there. Let's start with Bills Lions. We were messaging during this. I really thought there was about, I don't know if it was going into halftime or sometime in the third quarter, but I really thought the Lions were going to pull the upset.
Oh, me too.
I really thought they had it.
So with picks, so we did do our picks back and forth to each other. I got them all right, and you got them all wrong for Thursday
for
night?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't even realize that. Who did I pick? I picked Bills, Giants, Patriots. Yeah, and you picked.
So you got the Bills right.
Oh, yeah. So we both picked the Bills, even though I think we were both rooting for the Lions just because this Lions team is likable.
My picks were Bills, Dallas, Minnesota, but obviously I wanted it 100% flipped.
Yeah.
But yeah, didn't work out my way.
No. So this game was, I'll tell you what, the Lions, we talked about this multiple times. They have one of, if not the worst defense in the league, tied with, I believe, the Seahawks. But for some reason, their defense just looks like it plays hard and just always like forces weird turnovers.
They're not giving up.
No. And this was again the game where Aiden Hutchinson had another insane interception. Like how he keeps getting interceptions is mind-boggling to me, but he just stays at the line. He drops back a little and then he just makes insane catches like every time. It's impressive. Like I know when he was coming out of college, everybody was like, this guy definitely shouldn't be a top 5 pick. And now he makes his presence known on the field for like a fun Lions team that feels like they're a year or 2 away from actually being good.
Oh, I think there's talks about we'll get into this after we go through the whole thing, but maybe like Jimmy G, if he doesn't win the Super Bowl this year, goes to the Lions, that team is instantly better.
I don't know. I like Jared Goff. I don't think he's bad. He threw for 2 touchdowns, no interceptions this season. What do you think his touchdown to interception ratio is, Casino?
Without looking, I'll go. I know he scored a lot. Let's go 16-8.
Oh, that was actually very close. 17-7.
Ooh.
Damn, that was very close. But he's had a couple games where he's thrown 4 touchdowns. He did it against the Commanders and against the Seahawks. He's had this game, like a couple others, where he's thrown 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So I don't think he's bad. I honestly just think it's the defense. If the defense could hold teams to less than, I mean, usually they're averaging what, 28 points a game. So if they could literally hold the opponent to 3
20.
touchdowns instead of 4, like this Lions team would be a lot better than 4-7. They would be, I could totally see a scenario where this Lions team right now is flipped, where they're 7-4 instead of 4-7. They just have got shit end of the calls and breaks that you need to win football games. As far as the Bills go, both of our picks to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, your faith in them restored a little or still questionable?
Again, it had to come down to how Josh Allen played. Better, but not what I expect him to play.
Now,
again,
still
this is not all on the
turnovers too.
This is not all on the quarterback. Because you and I both agree that it's not about just the quarterback when it comes to football. But he did go 24 for 42, 253 yards, 2 TDs, and an INT. And he did rush for 78 yards off of 10 attempts. Not bad, but so he threw an interception. He also had a fumble. He's playing better than he did the previous 3 weeks. But they're still going to be a tough team to beat in the playoffs. Am I 100% confident they're going to win the Super Bowl? I'm wavered a bit on it, but are they still my pick? Yes, I still think they'll figure it out. But yeah, better than what I thought. But with the teams that the Patriots have beat, and those teams have beat the Bills, I'm really hoping. I think the Patriots are a decent team. I'm really hoping that they can pull this off. But the Bills are still just than every other team.
Well, they also the Bills are 0-2 in division, right? Because they lost to the Jets, they lost to the Dolphins, and then they have their next. So there's 6 games left in the season, which is crazy that we're already here. But 6 games left in the season. They play your Patriots on Thursday. Then they play the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bears, the Bengals, and the Patriots. So
these next 3 weeks are going to be big for that division on who's going to come out and who's going to win.
Well, it really comes down to the Bills either hosting a playoff game or being on the road the entire playoffs. Like, it really comes down to, do they beat your team? Do they beat the Jets? Do they beat the Dolphins? And then it's like, then they can't even rest, because if they do beat that, then they still are a game back behind KC for home field advantage and that number 1 seed. So for a Bills team that we thought by week 16, 15, they would just be like resting their starters and getting ready for the playoffs. Now it kind of becomes like you better win minimum the Dolphins and Jets game, or you might be the 5th, 6th seed in the playoffs. Like, that's crazy to go from number 1, 4 weeks ago to now potentially being in that last playoff spot. Like, this Bills team, I don't know what happened to them. I mean, they're not bad. They're still 8-3, but I feel a lot less confidence in them than I did, coming out of that Buffalo Vikings game, I remember telling you, like, I think both teams look way worse than their records indicate and way worse than people are hyping them up to be. And then we got, our next game, Segway Casino, is the
That's what I was trying to do.
yeah, buddy. It is where is it? Oh, is the your Patriots losing to the Minnesota Vikings. So the Patriots are now 6-5, obviously playing the Bills this Thursday. And then the Vikings now 9-2. Vikings win 33-26. Primetime Kirk does not come out. He actually had a pretty damn good game.
Did
He
you watch any of
was
this? Did you see how this game ended?
the what?
You see how the game ended? Did you watch any of it?
No, I watched the whole thing, but remind me. How did it end?
Yeah, so the Patriots, not we. I gotta stop saying that. The Patriots, they forced them to a punt. It's tied 26-26. The special teams is what cost us the game the entire game. They let a punt return for a touchdown, and then this one was the dagger roughing the kicker. Our guy
I do remember this.
he hit the foot, and then what happened? They go down and score a touchdown on that drive, what ended up being the game-winning touchdown. The offense and the defense played exactly how you wanted them to play. They had good games.
Yeah, Mac Jones lit them up.
You keep asking me about Mac Jones as my faith restored, and what is my answer every single? Or am I over him or not? Every time, what would I tell you?
No, you say he's slightly better than Zappy, and you would stick with Mac Jones
as long as he did what?
As long as he protected the football,
and
didn't run into sacks,
and got out of his hands quicker.
Yeah,
he did that. He was under almost every throw was under 3 seconds, under 2.5 seconds. It was something like that. They were talking about it in the fourth quarter.
And he threw for 28 for 39, 382, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. So that's a damn good game.
This year. He had a great game. He did exactly what he was showing us last year. This is why everybody thought he was going to be much better this year. He was doing this last year. He was getting rid of the football quick. He was protecting the football. He wasn't making silly plays or taking sacks or trying to do the Zach Wilson thing and throwing interceptions when you're going to get sacked. It was so frustrating to watch this game because the Patriots had them. And then just special teams twice in the game cost them 14 points.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a hold that was not called, and the commentators even talked about it on that punt return. But that's being nitpicky. It was a hold, but it was a minor hold, so I could see them not calling it. I could see them calling it. So it just didn't go the way I obviously wanted it to be called. But it wasn't an egregious hold. It was there, but it was easy enough to miss. But yeah, so I'm just really happy with that. I mean, in Cousins, even though I have him on my fantasy team and I was happy, I was not happy. But Jefferson, we've talked about him. Let's talk about him a little bit. He definitely showed up.
Yeah, he's literally only had
targets,
one bad game this season.
Yeah, 139 yards, 1 TD. Also, Hawkinson, as I've talked about, that was going to definitely help this team on out. He got 5 receptions off of 6 targets for 43 and a touchdown. Also, going into this game, I talked to my brother-in-law about this. I was like, Thielen, like, what happened to him? It was like nobody talks about him anymore. It's like he's just having a bad year. Like, what happened? And then, he goes 9 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. He was there. If I have to throw it to the guy, get it to the guy.
Yeah. I remember talking about this when we were doing our NFL preview for the season.
Jefferson threw an 11-yard pass as well. So,
but no, it was we were talking about this at the beginning of the season where it was like Thielen in fantasy football drafts was going in like the round like 8 or 9, and it was like, what the hell? Like, why is he going so late? I thought he was, one of the top 25 best wide receivers in the league.
Well, I knew he was going to drop off a little bit just because with what they also had in their receiving core, but I didn't expect that.
No. And this
year, I
didn't
expect him to be non-existent.
He's been there. It looks like he's averaging around like 50 to 60 yards a game. He has not had one game where he has went over 100 yards. His highest total is 72 yards, and that was way back in the beginning of October, but he only has 3 receiving touchdowns. I was surprised when I looked at Jefferson's stats. He only has 5 touchdowns this year, which is crazy because it feels like
No,
everybody kept
he's the
doing
guy.
the
He's the guy that gets the ball in position, and then they give it to someone else.
yeah, and then they throw it to Hawkinson or they let Dalvin Cook run it up the middle. But yeah, so last question on this game, Casino. We obviously, I don't know what to make of the Vikings, right? We saw them 2 weeks ago get destroyed by the Cowboys, and then they beat a really good Bills team. They beat this really good Patriots team. So they got destroyed by the Eagles on Monday night. I have no idea what I wouldn't bet money on if the Vikings are good or bad. I have no idea. As far as your Patriots go, do you think this team will make the playoffs?
I don't. I'll be happy if they do, but like I said last episode, they had the second hardest remaining schedule at the
Yeah,
time,
it's a murderer's row.
and it all comes down. I mean, they've already played the Jets twice, so they can't make them lose anymore. But it comes down to the Bengals and the Bills games on what they can do. You have to beat the Bengals. You just have to.
Yep.
And then I think you have to at least split with the Bills so you don't get wrecked. And then I mean, Miami, you have to find a win. You have to
Yeah.
find a win. You can't let the division beat you. Yeah, I think they're going to be just shy of making it. Even if they finish the rest of the game or rest of the season, and they go, how many games did they go? Say they go 9-8. They're about 500. If they split the rest of the season, you're not getting in.
Yeah.
Even
I
if
think 10 is like the
I honestly think that,
threshold.
yeah, I honestly think even if they lose one, um, or if they lose one and they can go 11-6, I think you're in.
Yeah.
I think if you lose 2, you lose 3, you're done. If you lose 2, you have to hope the Bengals trip up. The Jets just get destroyed by the Bills twice. You have to have a little bit of luck coming in here.
I agree with you. 9, you're out. 11, you're in. And then 10 is always going to be, it feels like it's going to be that thing that happens every year where it gets the last week of the season. And it's like, if blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah lose and blah, blah, blah wins, then this team's in. If this team wins and loses, then this team's in. Like those
Has that list like
scenarios
this
they
big.
do. Yeah. Where it's like a paragraph of like, if these 6 teams lose and these 3 win and your team wins, then your team's in. And it's just like, I don't know how the fuck people figure this out, but that feels like what we're destined for with the Patriots Casino. But I don't actually hate your team. I think they got a real shot, especially in an AFC that's way weaker than we thought it would be. Because we thought AFC West and
that's true. However, though, a good portion of remainder of our games, we have half of our games are in division, are in our actual division, not just conference.
Yeah.
And like I said, you have to split with the Bills. You just have to, and you have to find a way to win against Cincy and the Dolphins. And if you do that, I think you're in.
I think you can lose to the Dolphins and then, like you said, split with the Bills. And then you obviously have to beat the Raiders and Cardinals. But then I agree with you. I think it all comes down to that Bengals game. I think as long as you beat the Bills once and beat the Bengals, I think you're in. I think you're in. But the Bengals, and we'll talk about them when they get to their game, they're starting to pick up momentum like at the right time because they look fucking good. They look good. But before we get to them, let's look at another team that is starting to pick up momentum and look pretty damn good. And it pains me to say that, but the 8-3 Dallas Cowboys beat the now 7-4 New York Giants. This game ended up being 28-20, but really it was 28-14 because the Giants got a late garbage time touchdown that meant nothing. So really, Dallas winning by, I'm just going to say 2 touchdowns against the Giants. We've talked about this for a couple weeks now. Are the Giants finally like just done? Are they just
No,
losing?
I think they stalled. I don't think they're going to be doing kind of, well, I mean, the Jets just won, but we've talked about it with both New York teams. I just think they stalled. I don't think they're going to progress any better than what they have done. Teams have started to figure it out. They are going to, you know what you're going to get every time you go in there. You're going to either get mediocre or you can get lucky and they're going to be a little less than mediocre. I don't think they're going to be above and beyond anymore. That's just my opinion on it. I don't
Yeah,
think Dallas had the best game still. I watched some of it. I mean, they obviously won. They played better. You said, the Giants, they got that garbage time touchdown. But I
there
mean,
is something, and nobody is talking about this because obviously it's the Dallas Cowboys and everybody talks about them on every show just to get ratings. They're the biggest NFL team in terms of revenue, blah, 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 blah. What nobody is talking about is Dak Prescott doesn't look good since he came back. And I feel like people are overlooking this game because of how it finished. But at halftime of this game, he had 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, like 120 yards, and they were losing by, I believe, what? Let me look it up right now. They were losing by, oh, I can't.
6.
Yeah, they were
6.
losing by a touchdown at halftime, and then for some reason, something just happened at halftime, which good for them to make halftime adjustments. But Dak Prescott then threw 2 touchdowns. They held Saquon Barkley. The crazy stat from this game is Saquon only carried the ball 11 times, which why the hell are you giving? We've talked about this multiple times. Him and Derrick Henry are like their team's entire offense. So how are those guys getting less than double what they got this week? We'll talk about Henry when we get to it, but Saquon only got 11 carries. Why are you not feeding him the ball 25 times and like controlling the clock or whatever? But yeah, my concern with this Cowboys team is Dak Prescott. Obviously, he came back from surgery, but since he's been back, he has had the Vikings game where nothing could go wrong, right? That was just like one of those fluke games
He's
where
hit or miss. He's hot and cold. He's not.
yeah,
He's not. You don't know what you're going to get. I don't
but
know.
since he came back against the worst defense in the league, the Lions, he threw 1 touchdown, 200 yards. Like, that's average, right? Then he played against the Bears, also one of the worst defenses in the league. He threw for 250, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Not good, not bad. Then against that Packers team, that whole Cowboys team just imploded, right? And played maybe the worst game they played all season. He threw 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And again, it's just like he has these games where then the Vikings game, nothing went wrong, 276, 2 touchdowns, blah, blah, blah. So the Giants game, he starts that first half and has just an abysmal first half, throws 2 touchdowns, like 110 yards. And then the rest of the game, he goes 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't know. He just feels like there's something off about him. I don't trust Dak Prescott in the playoffs to begin with, and him now having 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions this season. I don't know, man. I feel like it's all smoke and mirrors, and because it's Dallas, people are kind of like just overlooking that he hasn't really been that great since he came back. I don't know. All right, Casino, now that we've covered the Thursday games, let's move to the Sunday games. We will be quicker because I feel like there were a lot of games like this one where you really only have to talk about like one of the teams and I don't really have a lot to say about this game in particularly. The now 1-9-1 Houston Texans lose in Miami to the now 8-3 Miami Dolphins 30-15. I know we have Casino's fantasy corner. Well, this is Will's loses money corner.
Let's do it. I like that. That's a good one. That's a good take.
I did a different parlay kind of card this week because I like doing parlay cards. I did the one where I picked 5 quarterbacks and did under or over how many touchdown passes they would throw. This is the only one I lost because Tua, his was 2.5. And I was like, oh, this
Oh,
all day Tua has 3 touchdowns in him. He throws 1 touchdown. Uh, Jeff Wilson stole a touchdown from him, and those were the only 2 touchdowns. But that's how I lost my parlay card. The other one was those damn oh shit, what was it? I will look it up. Uh it was one team where I was like, how the fuck could they lose? But Casino, are the Dolphins where would you put them in the ranks of NFL, I guess, best team? Like, where would you rank them?
right now I put them 2.
Really? Behind who?
Oh, um, you know what? I scratch that. I'll put them 3. I'm gonna put
And who would
them
1 and
3.
2 be?
Chiefs and Eagles still.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was the fucking Ravens. The Ravens losing to the Jags is what knocked my parlay card out. But
And
every other one I hit. Every other one I hit.
And to go down with this, we had all the same picks for Sunday, except for I chose Atlanta, you chose Washington, so you beat me there.
Yeah, buddy.
But we did not get all of them right. We'll tell you if we got them right on the walkthrough of these games, which I feel like we need to be a little quicker on.
Yeah. Well, I honestly don't feel like there was that many notable games yesterday. Like,
not really much to talk about. But no, Miami still winning. I still think they're legit. Kansas City, they're still Kansas City. They're good. There's no knocking that. And then I know that you still are like, the Eagles, they're okay. No, they're still good. They're 10-1. Chill out.
I'll tell you what, my confidence was boosted after Sunday night's game. So we'll get to that game.
Yep.
But let's move to the team you actually just talked about, which is the Chiefs game, where the Chiefs beat the if I can find this game.
Rams. It's 26-10.
There we go. 26-10 in Kansas City. The Chiefs are now 9-2. And I gotta say, I watched most of this game. I didn't think the Chiefs looked that good, especially against a Rams team that has been done and cooked for a couple weeks. Mahomes, 27-42, 320, a touchdown, 1 INT.
And you played against no Stafford. It was Perkins.
No, again,
at the start.
Which this guy hasn't been starting right for the past couple weeks, because wasn't last week? Didn't they have a different guy in there? Is this the same guy?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh, maybe it was Perkins last year. I don't know. I thought it was like Woodford or something like that. But anyways, I have not paid attention to the Rams for a good month at this point. They just look like the worst team. Yeah, they just look like they're done. They lost Cup, and yeah, this is kind of what we expect from a Rams team scoring 10 points against a Chiefs team that has a good defense, but they're not like elite or great or anything. But again, Rams offense is abysmal even before the Cooper Cup injury. Kansas City, I don't know. This game didn't really show me anything, but I feel like next week they have the Bengals, and I feel like that's like a marquee matchup.
Let's go Chiefs.
Oh, that's right. Casino, we will get canceled for that. You need to either be Native American or wearing a headdress to do that on the podcast. Okay, so Casino will have a headdress next episode.
Redo that. We'll redo that. My bad. That's the thing they do. I'm not. That's a thing. The tomahawk chop.
As far as the Chiefs go, so next week they have the Bengals, which are obviously, I think we'll get to the Bengals next, but Bengals look like they're on the come up. But then the Chiefs just have maybe the easiest schedule left in the league. They play Bengals next week. Then they're Broncos, Texans, Seahawks, Broncos, Raiders. I feel like they win every single one of those games, with maybe their only loss coming next week to Cincinnati. Like, they are gonna be 14-3, or would it be 15-3? They might
See
be,
here.
yeah, they might be
Yep.
15, 16 wins. Like, I don't know, man. They look or how they're at 9 now. So if they won 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so they could be 15-2. Like that is crazy to me. Let's move on, Casino, to, if I can find it, to the this game I watched all of. I thought it would be a better game than it was. It was still entertaining, but maybe not the game I was expecting it to be, which is the now 7-4 Cincinnati Bengals at the now 7-4 Tennessee Titans, 20-16. I thought this would be a much like more defensive game. And I mean the defenses were good in it, but also there was just kind of like a bunch of big plays in this game that kind of decided it. Cincinnati had one big play more than the Titans, but again, they only won by 4. But still, Derrick Henry, again, I don't know what's happened with him the past couple weeks, but in this game, they gave him the ball 17 times. So we talked about the Saquon one where they only gave him 11. They at least tried to
Yeah.
feed
I
Henry
think he's starting to
more.
get tired.
Dude, I mean, how could you not be? We talked about this a couple episodes ago where they were giving him the ball 35 times a game and he was getting barely 100 yards. Like, they're just running him into the ground. He only rushed for 38 yards. Tannehill, 291 on 22 completions, no touchdowns,
I mean,
no
38
INTs.
yards and only 38 yards on 17 attempts. Like, that's bad.
Yeah.
He's
Well, and then
that's a 2.2 average.
Well, his only big play of the game was like the pass that he fumbled at the goal line, and then Treylon Burke, I believe, jumped on it to get a touchdown. So his big play, I mean, he was a factor in the game. It was just in the passing game. But the Bengals, I'm telling you, man, that defense looks really good. Joey B, he kind of has the the Brett Favre problem where he throws way more interceptions than I would like him to, but he also doesn't seem to give a shit and will just go out there and throw touchdowns. I don't know, man. I really like this Bengals team. And I came into this week really liking, and I still do, I really like this Titans team too. I just think
I still like the Titans. Titans. I still like them. Henry just needs a spa day.
yeah.
Get him some cucumbers for the eyes, and
And it's a
I mean,
pedicure. A
yeah.
pedicure. Rest
I mean,
up
we know
those
he's not
feet.
going to eat the cucumbers because you don't get that bod off of just eating cucumbers.
Uh, but man, the Titans really do feel like they need a second back that can just get some type of pressure off of Derrick Henry. Like, it is crazy that, I mean, they only gave the other running back,
2
Dontrell
attempts.
Hilliard, 2 attempts. So maybe split it up a little evenly. So, Derrick Henry isn't suck and win the whole game because he's
Right.
running just full force every time.
I
But
mean, Hillard, he didn't do too bad. That's 8 yards per carry on average. So just, I mean, give it to him, man.
Next up, we move to the only game we had different, Casino, this week, which is the Heineke led Washington Commanders beating the now 5-7 Atlanta Falcons 19-13. The Commanders now 7-5, and the NFC playoff picture is literally so one is the Eagles 10-1, Minnesota at 9-2, 49ers 7-4, Tampa Bay at 5-6, and then the 3 wild cards are Dallas 8-3, Giants 7-4, Washington 7-5. So at this moment, if the playoffs started, every single NFC East team would be in the playoffs, which is nuts. But with Seattle losing this week and then Washington winning, they switch for the last spot in the playoffs.
Oh,
At this current moment, the Washington Commanders are in the playoffs, and they look good. I don't hate them. I think they're a fun team to root for.
this just in, going back to college, just got the update. Hugh Freeze has agreed to a deal to become Auburn's next head football coach. He spent his last 4 years at Liberty. So
Which
where
there
he
were
actually
Well,
Go for it.
that puts to rest that there were rumors that Lane Kiffin was going to take that job from
Fair
Ole
enough.
Miss.
So
So,
yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. That's hot off the press.
ooh, we
Boom,
got
boom,
some
boom.
steaming hot breaking news right on the pod. That seems to happen a
Nice.
lot. I don't know if it's just the time we
It's
record,
the
but
time we record.
yeah, just where everybody drops breaking news. But the one thing I do not like about this Commanders team is, and it has to do with Heineke, he will throw one interception or pass that should be an interception a game that it looks like he is just trying to throw an interception. Like this interception he threw against the Falcons, there was like it was like his guy was 10 yards from the ball and it was 4 Falcons players around him. So he throws some of the worst picks in the league, but I mean, he makes up for it. He threw 2 touchdowns, only 138 yards passing. But the real story of this game is Brian Robinson Jr. Like, for that guy to be doing what he is doing with being shot, in the beginning of the season or whatever, like, that's fucking crazy. Like, how is this
Only
guy
a
this
flesh
good?
wound.
And then did you see the other notable part about this game? Did you see the Sean Taylor tribute
Oh my
statue
god.
they did before the game where
It
it's
wasn't a
literally just
statue.
like,
It was just wiring.
yeah, it looks like a art piece or like a wire mannequin. Like, how is it taking
It's
this
not a,
long?
that's not a stat.
No,
That's not a statue.
it's a mannequin. It's a
Yeah.
mannequin with
It's
a
a wire
jersey on
mannequin.
it.
It's a wire
Like,
mannequin.
how is it taking this long to build a statue for that guy? They do this like tribute to him every year, and it's like all you would have to do is build one statue, and then you could just do an event around the statue one game a season. It's like, I mean, everybody knows Washington is run by an incompetent idiot, Dan Snyder, but like there has to be people around him who are just like, we are the laughing stock of the NFL. This will not help that. It's a
No,
wire mannequin.
dude, it is
Like,
bad. It is bad. They keep calling it a statue. It's not a fucking statue. It's a wired mannequin. But even then, to me, that's not no. A mannequin is still even something that is a solid figure.
that you could at least make it look like the guy. Like,
Yeah, like you can sculpt the face. This is not a statue. It's not a mannequin. It's a you, it's
an
an
abomination.
it's an exquisite hanger for this jersey and helmet. Like it is bad. Oh, I feel so bad for him and his family. I mean, on all the radio shows and TV shows that are covering this, I'm just listening to it and I'm like, they all keep saying, "Oh, I feel so bad for his family. I feel so bad." Yeah. Like I don't care if they beat that soundbite to the ground where it's just bad for his family, because that should be known. Like,
yeah, I do feel bad for his family.
I want the ownership to hear that said out of every single person's fucking mouth, that it is a slap to his family. That is bad for his family.
I just pulled it up to look at it now. It is so bad. It's so bad. But you're right. You cannot, not in any sense of the word, is that a statue. No way, no
and
how.
Again, I don't even want to call it a mannequin. It's
a mannequin is
hanger.
Still a compliment, I feel like. It is literally, like you said, it's like they took extra wire hangers and just made it so it could hold up a jersey. It is brutal. But speaking of brutal, Casino, let's move on to our next game. The brutal to watch 3-8 Denver Broncos lose 23-10 to the 4-8 Carolina Panthers. If you would have told me that the Broncos are getting beat by 2 touchdowns to a Sam Darnold-led Carolina Panthers at the beginning of this season, I would have slapped you in your mouth and said, how dare you disrespect Russell Wilson like this? But nobody likes Russell Wilson. Did you see the clip of, I believe it was a defensive tackle just screaming at him on the sidelines, and then you can see Russell Wilson just being like, okay, cool, man. Like he has no reaction to it whatsoever. That team fucking hates him.
Oh, dude. That team
His
hates him. That
his
team hates him.
former
Seattle
teammates hate
hated
him.
him. Like, dude, he's ruined his career.
Well, and also the Broncos have ruined their chances of being a good team for the next 5 years. Like Russell Wilson took all their picks, took all their money. Like, if you're the Broncos, what do you even do now? What do you do? That Russell Wilson looks like he forgot to play football. Like he just, I mean, his stats this season. Did you see that crazy stat that's been floating around online where if the Broncos would have scored 18 points in every game this season, they would be like 9-2. Like 18 points. That's because that's how good their defense is. And Russell Westbrook. I always do that.
I've done it too.
Russell Wilson, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions this season. Again, he has started every game this season, and we are going into week 12. He's thrown 8 touchdowns. Like, how? How is this possible?
I don't know. Anyway, I don't have any more to say on that.
That's Sam Darnold came in. He looked fine, but really, again, with the Panthers, it's always there. They play good defense, and they have a good rushing game. So if they get a decent quarterback, this would be Carolina Panthers would be if the Raiders want to move off Derek Carr or your Jimmy Garoppolo. I could see either of those guys going to the Carolina Panthers and immediately making them at least a 500 team, maybe even a playoff team in that division. Like, I could see it. Next, let's move to the 3-9 Bears losing 31-10 to the 7-4 Mike White led Jets.
Mike White?
That motherfucker, our favorite quarterback on this
benched
pod for his off the field activities, definitely not his on the field activities. He is benched, and it looks like he is benched for a while. Yeah. Mike White.
22 for 28, 315, 3 TDs, no INTs.
No turnovers whatsoever. No fumbles. I believe he only took, I think I saw it, it was like 2 sacks or something like that, if that. This Jets team with this, because obviously the reason the Jets are 7-4 right now is because of their defense, right? They're a top.
Oh yeah,
they're a top 5 defense in the league.
Easily, I'd say top 3, maybe even. They're a legit defense.
They're legit
defense. They literally they have no offense, none.
No,
they don't even have they don't have one superstar to carry them. They had a decent running back there for a while till he blew out his leg, and he was a rookie. They have no offense. They have no offensive players worth notable to talk about on this podcast.
Well, except for I do like Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is good. He's good, but isn't he also a wide receiver, or he's like 1 year? I believe he is.
Oh, like his contract?
No, I believe. Yeah, he's a rookie as well. So this is what I'm saying. They have a good like nucleus. Their issue has just been the quarterback, right? Because Zach Wilson has just been abysmal, and then they get a quarterback in there who can complete passes, and now the Jets are scary. Like, I could see a scenario where during the playoffs, the Jets upset like a Buffalo or a Kansas City just by playing smash mouth defense and like shutting them down. Like, I think the 2 scariest teams in the NFL right now are probably the Jets and the 49ers, and that's basically just because both of them play damn good defense when nobody else in the league really does. Like,
that's fair.
And as far as the Bears are unwatchable if Justin Fields isn't in it.
Dude, so Justin Fields is their team. I like Justin Fields so much. Well,
he's also the only thing entertaining about this team. Like, when he's not in it, the Bears look like the worst team in the league. Like, at least when he's in it, they're bad, but they're entertaining. We got a couple more games to go. Let's move over to the Buccaneers-Browns. The now 5-7 Tampa Bay Bucks losing to the now 4-7 Cleveland Browns, 23-17. Jacoby Brissett had a decent game. He led them
Again,
down
he's not.
to,
He's just a decent quarterback that normally can't finish.
well, now they get the ultimate finisher, if you know what I mean. Next week back, Deshaun Watson is starting. I believe they've already confirmed that he is back next week and starting against the Texans. So,
I want him to lose every single game.
oh yeah,
Oh,
especially
and this is not because of all the horrible things that he's done. This is just I want to be justified on. I've been saying, and you've been saying, the dude hasn't played in 2.5 fucking years. He's not going to be good. I want that to be the case.
yeah.
I don't want him to come in and be anyone good. He hasn't played in 2.5 years. Why is he getting paid so much? Why? And I mean, anyway.
Well, I mean, we just talked about how bad the Russell Wilson contract is. If Deshaun Watson comes in and just absolutely sucks the last 6 games of the season, that contract will now be the worst contract in the NFL because the Browns basically bet their fortune on a guy who is obviously an asshole and obviously like a terrible person.
The crazy thing is they knew this.
Like, well,
this didn't come out after the contract.
Yeah. But if they knew all that shit and then they also bet their entire franchise and all their money and draft picks on a guy who hadn't played in 2 years, and then he comes in and looks like a guy who hasn't played in 2 years, like the lovable Browns aren't so lovable anymore. They just look like, I mean, I still think they just look like absolute idiots. Like you have
those running backs need to get out of there.
Oh, I mean, well, that's the thing. It's like the Browns have been good for what, the past 4 or 5 years?
Hunt, whatever. I don't care. But Chubb, you need to get out of there.
Yeah. And Amari Cooper, too. I feel bad for Amari Cooper. He goes from the Dallas Cowboys for a 5th round pick to the Browns, and this is what happens. But we're talking about the Browns as if they lost. They won this game. The bad team in this game was the Tampa Bay Bucks, which again, Tom Brady's not playing bad. He threw 246 on 29 completions for 2 touchdowns. Chris Godwin came back in a big way, 12 receptions, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. Even their running game was not bad, but again, I don't know. The only thing saving the Bucks this season is being in the NFC South. They're still in first place.
That's insanity.
They literally have a worse record than every single team in both of our divisions we root for. And yet they're number 1 in their NFC South. And honestly, with what we've seen from the Panthers, the Falcons, and then the Saints, they're going to win this game, 7-10?
Oh, this division? Oh, yeah. They could win 2 more and still come out on top.
Oh, God. I mean, but then again, when it gets to the playoffs, are you betting against Tom Brady? Like, nope. I'm not. I still would want to play him.
No.
Even if it's a 6-11 or 7-10 team and it's led by Tom Brady, I don't want to play that in the playoffs.
No. Because maybe that's the day that Godwin and Evans remember how to play football.
Yeah. Well, Evans had that great catch where he's like clung it to the back of somebody, and Godwin.
He's had a few catches that hit his hands and there's nobody around him. So I don't give him credit for good catches when he drops ones that are literally in his hands and nobody around him.
Well, no, and Tom Brady's playing good, but also this Tampa Bay Bucks offense. I mean, for 3/4 of the game, every game, they just look like they forgot how to score points. Like they're as bad as the Broncos. Maybe, well, they're obviously slightly better because the Broncos are like historically bad. But for this Tom Brady led offense to not score touchdowns is a travesty. Let's move on to another travesty that cost me my parlay card. The 7-4 Baltimore Ravens lose to the 4-7 Jacksonville Jaguars, 28-27. Lamar Jackson, I think, is the story coming out of this game, saying to somebody who criticized him randomly on Twitter that he doesn't know shit about football and he should just go eat a dick. So always great when a quarterback on Twitter is telling a rando to go eat a dick. I will pull, let's see, I will pull the message up right here. So somebody said, when someone is asking for over 250 million guaranteed, like, and then he tagged Lamar Jackson, games like this should not come to, and then he tagged Justin Tucker. Let Lamar walk and spend that money on a well-rounded team. Jackson responded that, boy, shut the fuck up. Y'all be capping too much on this app. Motherfucker never smelt a football field, never did shit but eat dick.
Which, is that verified? Was that verified?
That was verified. That was confirmed that it was from Lamar Jackson.
That wasn't one of those fake verified?
No, that was from his account. He said that, and he waited 3 hours to delete that tweet and then obviously apologized for it. But first off, this is why I love social media, because you have celebrities and athletes arguing with people who all they're doing is trying to get the athlete or celebrity mad. And when it works,
no, I
love
the guy that the guy who put out this original post, he's now famous for getting Lamar Jackson to say eat a dick.
Oh yeah, he probably printed it out, he framed it, he told all his friends about it. He doesn't give a shit whatsoever.
I would,
dude, I'd wear
all over my entire house.
I'd wear that tweet response on a shirt for the rest of this podcast if I did that. That's just great stuff. And Lamar Jackson,
I would probably walk around with it all day, every day. Like I would probably have like 20 t-shirts made, and like that would be my t-shirt.
I mean, Lamar Jackson's obviously going to get shit because he responded like that. He used a homophobic slur, blah, blah, blah. Keep the homophobic slur out of it, but you just saying shut the fuck up and like sit down. I'm here for both sides of this. If you can get a rise out of somebody, that's always makes me laugh. I am, but also, Guy kind of didn't say anything wrong there. Do you want to play Lamar Jackson the 250 million? He didn't have a bad game. He threw 254 on 16 out of 32 for 1 touchdown. He also rushed for 90 yards, but
that's not that great. That's not a Lamar Jackson game.
No, especially against a 4-7 Jaguars team that is, I mean, they're just playing the games on their schedule for nothing, basically. They're 24th in the league in points allowed. They're allowing 21 points a game, so I don't know, man. Something about this Ravens team, I keep wanting to stick my flag in this team and be like, oh, they can be a real contender in the AFC. But for some reason, this Ravens team, there's just something off about them. I don't trust their defense. They've blown a lot of leads this season. Casino, would you bet on this Ravens team to win a game in the playoffs?
No, I would not.
See, I feel like I'm right there with you. I don't feel like there's something off about this Ravens team. I don't trust their defense.
Are they still good? Are they? They're good enough. They're good play. They can make the playoffs, but there's enough teams in there that have more fight than them that I would bet on over them.
Well, also besides Lamar Jackson, who on this offense are you scared of? I don't feel like Mark Andrews, maybe like the tight end, but other than that, they have Duvernay or whatever as their leading receiver this year, and I think he would be 3rd wide receiver on most teams. Like, I just think they are severely missing a weapon. Let's move on to the next game, which is the 4-7 Las Vegas Raiders winning in OT against the now 6-5 Seattle Seahawks. Whenever we talk about the Raiders, we have to do Casino Price Watch, because he wants to go to Raiders Patriots in a couple weeks. So we're watching the price. It started $278. It went down by $10 last week to $268. What is it at now, Casino?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh no, did the price go up?
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about it. We're looking at again, this is off of the Game Time app. This is the app that I use to buy my tickets. Again, we're not sponsored by them. That's just the app that I go through. 285.
Wow, 285. Let me write this down.
And that's all in.
All in. So now it is up to more expensive than when we started this watch 3 weeks ago.
And so all these pricings that I'm giving out, all these pricings are for two people, because for some reason when you look up for one, the cheapest is $357.
Oh my god.
It's because they sell them in pairs. So
yeah, makes sense.
yeah.
But so let's talk about this game. The Raiders, thank you, child. My son just handed me a pen when I dropped it on the floor. So the Oakland Raiders win in OT with a Josh Jacobs just great run right up the gut. I mean, the Raiders are they're 4-7. They're technically still in it, but they're not going to crack. They're not going to win the next 6 games. And even at 10-7 in the AFC, they might not get in because of how good the AFC East has been, and then also Bengals and Ravens. But the real takeaway from this game that I want to talk about is the Seahawks casino. Are the Seahawks kind of starting to show cracks in what we thought was, a definite playoff team, but they lost to the Bucks last week, and now they lose to the Raiders, two teams that on paper they should have beaten?
I don't think they're showing their cracks and whatnot. I just think that they're going to what I kind of expected them to be. They're actually, it would be a little more than what I expected them to be. I didn't expect them to be this good, regardless. But I think they're brought down to earth a little bit.
Yeah.
The hype at the beginning of the season with Geno Smith, but again, he played a good game. 27 for out of 37 attempts, 328, 2 TDs, 1 INT. He played a decent game.
Yeah. But again, the talk of this Seahawks team has been that defense.
And
they are
what I was
tied.
Get to is that the defense is a sieve.
They switch with Detroit every week for being the worst defense. I think it's Houston, Seattle, and Detroit. Obviously, two of the worst teams in the league record-wise. And then you also have the Seahawks, who just have, a sieve of a defense. I mean, you give up 40 points to this Raiders team that at times this season has looked anemic on offense. But the Seahawks, I think what it comes down to is their schedule. So they really needed that game against the Bucks, and obviously really needed this game against the Raiders, because if they could have won Bucks, Raiders, and then their next two are Rams, Panthers, then they would be in a much better situation to deal with the 3 games after that. They go 49ers, Chiefs, Jets, just 1 week after another. They could realistically, especially at this point, lose all 3 of those.
I think they will. I'm probably, unless some crazy things happen, I'm going to bet against them on all 3 of those games.
Yeah, and especially with the emergence of the Commanders taking that last playoff spot, and then the 49ers also taking the division lead, I think it might be the Cinderella slipper, or the glass slipper, has turned back into just a regular slipper casino. Oh, excuse me. So we have 4 more games. I think the next 2, really nothing to talk about here. Let's go first to the 49ers blanking the Saints 13-0. The 49ers are now 7-4. The Saints are now 4-8. The 49ers, like I just said, regain control of the NFC West. Any thoughts on I think the Saints are done.
The only thing I'm going to say on it is the Niners defense did what the Niners defense we expect from them, and their offense did what I expect their offense to do. So it's really nothing else to say. And the Saints, they are so wishy-washy on who they want to be their starting quarterback. They don't know what's going on. They're still figuring things out. But I mean, kind of hard to just be right back into it after you lose a Hall of Fame quarterback as in Drew Brees. So they've got some work to do.
I mean, the Saints defense hasn't been bad this season. They are allowing 23 points a game, so they still, held the 49ers to below the season average they've been allowing. Only thing that I think concerns me and concerns everybody who watches this 49ers team is you have to just expect a Jimmy G is going to not let you win a game and potentially lose it, right? And it's just does that come next week? Does that come 2 weeks from now? Or does that come in the playoffs? Because I don't know how much you can trust Jimmy G, but I think kind of the elephant in the room is Christian McCaffrey had that one great game. Every other game besides that one, remember where he had like 4 touchdowns in it?
Right.
Every other game, he's kind of just been another guy on the field. And this game, he rushed for 11 times, 32 yards, and then he caught the ball 4 times for 17 yards. So again, like kind of a non-factor in a game where they clearly tried to showcase him by getting him the ball, 15 times, and he got less than 50 yards. So I don't know. But I feel like everybody's already penciling the 49ers on the NFC up to the did I lose you, Casino? All right.
Definitely
Sorry
got to
about
talk World
that.
Cup though in hockey, man. And I want to talk about both those. And if you could talk NBA, sure. We got still plenty of things to talk about.
All right. Ready? 3, 2. All right. Sorry, we lost Casino for a second there, but yeah, just to put a end cap on the 49ers Saints talk, I feel like everybody is just penciling the 49ers into the NFC side of the Super Bowl, and they're 7-4. They're starting to get everybody back, but I don't know. Holding the Saints to 0 points is not like this crazy accomplishment, especially when their quarterback is Andy Dalton. I don't know what Jameis Winston did where it's all of a sudden just like the Saints are like, no, Andy Dalton 100%. Like, why? Jameis Winston, I mean, Andy Dalton didn't do great, but he didn't do bad. It's not like he's lighting the world on fire. So I don't know. Any thoughts on the 49ers, Casino?
Not any more than you said.
All right. Let's move on to the last 2 games, or last 3, or no, we already talked about Chiefs Rams. So let's move on to the last 2 games. The Chargers winning 25-24 against the now 4-8 Arizona Cardinals. The Los Angeles Chargers are 6-5. Herbert had the game everybody expects Herbert to have every game, where he threw for 274, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. He also was shockingly the leading rusher on the team with 38 yards. And then the Cardinals got Kyler Murray back. He went 18 for 29, 191, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT, rushed for 56 yards and a touchdown. And then afterwards on the mic at the press conference decided to throw all his coaches under the bus and say he didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So classic Kyler Murray game. He loses, he puts up pretty good stats, and then he just calls out people at the end of it in a dumb
I've lost all
outfit.
respect for that kid.
Yeah. He just seems like an asshole.
So much. I liked him so much when he entered the league.
Yeah.
He's a dick.
I was rooting for him too, but yeah, he comes off like a real asshole. Like, he just really does. He comes off like he has that like Napoleon complex kind of thing, where he's like the shorter guy who's just always angry. And just, yeah, I don't know. But I agree with you. I don't know how many weeks Cliff Kingsbury has. I think he's done. I think he's out as the coach. And the Cardinals, whether we like it or not, have to stick with Kyler Murray because they drafted him. He's not bad. He's just, again, an asshole. But the real story coming out of this game is the Chargers Casino. How far do you think this Chargers team can go?
Hopefully not much further. As a Pats fan, I need them to lose. Oh yeah, my kid has a lot to talk about on that one. But honestly, I don't think too much further. I mean, their next one is the Raiders. They should win. I hope they do win. But I don't want them to win. I don't know what I'm going at here.
Do you want them to win for your team or for your wallet? Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. Draw. Let's go with the draw. I'll take a draw.
Yeah.
Overtime draw. But then they have the Dolphins, Titans, and you know what? Colts are showing some fight. And then Rams, Broncos, whatever. But I mean, they have 3 tough ones after that. Dolphins, Titans, Colts.
Well, and the Raiders, they always play the Raiders tough. Like the Raiders always
So
play the Chargers tough. When they played
that
earlier this year, it was 24-19. So it's not like, they blew them out or anything. And the
right.
Raiders, they can drop 40 on you. They have the talent to, they just never do, except for this week. But yeah, I agree with you. The Chargers right now are what we said, 6-5.
Yep.
So they would have to win what? So 6-5.
They're in the same boat as the Patriots.
Yeah, but they have to at least win one of the Dolphins or Titans game, right? They just have to win one of them. And then it would be 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, they look like a team that can be 10-7. So we'll see. Next up, the last game of this slate, because obviously we're recording this Monday day before the Monday night game, is my Philadelphia Eagles, now 10-1, beating the now 4-8 Green Bay Packers 40-33. They picked off Aaron Rodgers 2 times, sent him to the locker room with, I guess, an oblique injury or a thumb injury, some type of injury.
I heard thumb.
And then the real talk of this game was the historic rushing performance.
The living God, Jalen Hurts.
I mean, this game, he really did look like a living God. He had 100 yards rushing like 8 minutes into the first quarter, which is just
first
crazy.
time in NFL history. A player, I think it was 150 yards passing, 125 yards rushing in a game in the first quarter.
Yeah,
or something like that. It was like,
or the first half or something. Yeah,
first quarter. It was something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was 100 something passing and rushing in the first quarter. Nobody's ever done that before in NFL history, and he did.
And the team itself had 363 yards rushing, which is just an insane number against any team. I know the Packers have one of the worst run defenses in the league, but the worst run defense means you give up like 150. This team gave up 363, which is just
college
insanity.
Stats.
Yeah, that's like Alabama playing against, Pillow University or whatever. Like that is crazy.
I almost went there. Apparently they have good naps.
Yeah. And I was going to make a joke, but I didn't want to be Lamar Jackson on this podcast. I'll tell you off air. Jalen Hurts, 16 for 28, 153, 2 touchdowns, but then he carried the ball 17 attempts for 157. Miles Sanders, 21 carries, 143, and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, I was scared of this game because Aaron Rodgers, like he showed against the Cowboys a couple weeks ago, can still beat any team despite their record. So immediately picking him off and going up 14-0. And then this is one of those games where we talked about that Cowboys-Giants game where the score doesn't really indicate the game because the Packers kind of got a late garbage touchdown. So this game was a lot less close than the score indicates, but it somehow felt closer when you were watching it. I don't know. But Casino, any thoughts? I mean, the Packers are done, right? They're done.
Fuck Rodgers.
They're out of the playoffs. Any thoughts on the Eagles?
I think they got better, and it showed, and they're still good. They're a good team. I don't care what you tell me. You're not gonna sway me otherwise.
This game did actually make me believe because I do think this style of football can win a lot of games, which is controlling the clock, running the ball, and then just always just being able to pick up a couple yards when you need it, even though there was some weird 3-1 and 4-1 drives on this game where they didn't get it. The Packers did a good job of stopping those, but they're the only team this season that has done it. As far as Jalen Hurts goes, I have multiple times text you that I think he is a living God, and
that's why I said living God.
He's definitely gets better every season. He's definitely has started to get better every game. I don't think there is really any discussion right now. I think he's the MVP. I think he's the MVP of the league.
He's the MVP. He's the MVP even if he has a game.
Yeah. I don't see, like, people are saying pencil him in as like the second or third MVP. He has 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and then he also has, and that's just passing, right? I don't believe he's lost any fumbles, and then he is also rushed for, let me look it up. Oh, why is it not showing the rushing? Indulge me for a second. He is also rushed for 597 yards and 8 touchdowns. So he has 600 yards rushing, 2,600 yards passing, and then 17 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. Like, I don't know. You can say Patrick Mahomes is having a better season, but I don't think I believe you. I don't think he is having a better season because
No, he's just doing what he does, and no, it's Jalen Hurts all day.
yeah, that we can both agree on. I'm not even going to look up Patrick Mahomes stats because it doesn't matter. I think it's Jalen Hurts all the way. So that is our NFL talk this week. The Monday night game tonight is Colts Steelers. I don't really think there's anything to talk about out of that game unless something crazy happens, and we'll talk about it on next episode. But anything else, or do you want to talk about the World Cup?
Oh, definitely want to talk about the World Cup. A lot to talk about. So last that we talked, game 1 had played, at least for the U.S. We'll start with them first. U.S. obviously got their draw against Wales. They played and they were the better team the entire game. They had one bad foul, and it was a foul in the box that cost a penalty. Get a draw in that game. Almost everybody was England is going to wipe the floor with USA. They were just going to wreck them. There was, yep, my kid's right. There was a couple players on the team though that were, oh, thank you. That's hold on. Okay, yeah, there you go. There you go. Couple players on their team that were like, hey, don't overlook this young US team. They have the third youngest team on average in the World Cup. The US does. And it was like they have spark, they have fight. We got the draw. We actually had, I believe it was more shots. Let's see here. I don't see the stats on it, but we definitely were an aggressor on, especially the second half towards late in the game. England had a couple really good chances. Here you go. And then, so it comes simple for us. Tuesday, come tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. All USA has to do is they just have to beat Iran. That's simple. You can't tie, you can't lose, you just have to beat them. Iran's not a bad team. They are still top 20 in the world, but so are US, Wales. So like, this group was all a good team or a good group. But if they play like they did 3 halves out of the 4 against Iran, they win.
Do you think the US can beat this Iran team? Also, is it Iran or Iran? It's Iran.
I've always said Iran, but I know it's Iran. I've had friends who are worldly, and I'm not trying to be me. Like they've traveled a lot. They most everywhere they hear it, it's Iran. But yeah, I 100% think they can beat them. With what they showed, because right now England sits at the top with 4 points. Iran's got 3. We've got 2, so that means we have to beat Iran. We can't tie them, and just hope for the best. So yep, it's easy. Win, you're in. So basically, your round of 16, your single game eliminations start tomorrow, not in the round of 16. Will I think they get past the round of 16? No. Like I said, I believe they would have to play France. they won't win. France is one of the heavy favorites. But a couple notes in Group A, Qatar, shocker. They have a -4 goal differential. They have lost 2 games.
What? But they were so good in that one game.
Oh, the only way they were making the World Cup is if they held it. Yeah. Anyway, so we got that one. Mexico, our friends down south, they're pretty much, they have to have a lot happen. They would have to win, and certain teams would have to lose.
What team did
Their
Mexico
chances,
just lose to?
who do they play? Oh, so they lost their first game, and then they drew their second game. So yeah, it's
I work with a lot of people who are rooting for Mexico, and apparently them losing their last game or not beating whoever they played last game was a big a big
so they
issue
tied
with
against
them.
Poland to start their World Cup, and then they lost to Argentina 2-0, but Argentina was a must win.
Okay.
And then they have Saudi Arabia next, but that's who beat Argentina. So that's where we're at with that. While he's doing that, I'm going to continue talking about it. Go forward one more. Nope. Wow. There's my phone is wanting to not cooperate with me. So then moving on in Group D, you have France. They've won there too. They're top. They've already moved on. Australia most likely will come out of that. The big shock, Germany. They have a same kind of spot as Mexico. They have a big uphill climb if they want to get out of it. Let's see who they play next, because they may not be able to. So they play Costa Rica, and that would put them with playing Costa Rica. If they beat Costa Rica, they have to beat Costa Rica, and they have to beat Costa Rica, and Spain would have to beat Japan for Germany to advance. Brazil, top of their group, but the big thing there is Neymar is not playing the rest of the group stages. He got injured, but he will be back as they get in the later rounds, is what they were saying. And then Portugal is running away with it in Group H. So yeah, big day tomorrow. I'm really, really excited to see how that pans on out for the U.S. That is where we are. And come next podcast, next episode, you will know pretty much the shakedown of the round of 16. So while BJ's gone, let me jump over to hockey. With the hockey, not much has changed. You still have the Bruins crushing the Atlantic Division at 18 wins and 3 losses. The Devils, they finally lost their lose streak a couple games back, but they're still 18-4, or their win streak, but they're still 18-4. Absolutely nobody expected that. A lot of people expected to be a better team this year, but to have an 18-4 and to be arguably they're right behind the Bruins as the best team. But the Bruins, if they lose, or if the Bruins lose their next game, they are tied. But if not, we are there. Pretty much, again, still nothing's going on. It's still so early in the season. It just hit the quarter mark in the season. And it's kind of nothing has changed since we've really talked about it last. The standings are all pretty much the same. The Stars, the Blues, like I said, they were going to start making a run here, and then they've gained a few points, but the Stars are still on top. The Central, the Pacific, the Golden Knights are still on top. They have dropped a couple in a row. The surprising team, I guess, outside of the Devils and the NHL would be the Kraken, sitting in second in the Pacific. So that's kind of your quick hockey updates. We'll get more into hockey as the football season kind of ends, and then you start playoff hockey and playoff basketball. We'll get into that more because there won't be too much to talk about outside of start of baseball season, which nobody cares about the start of baseball season. So I mean, I'm a baseball fan, and I still don't really care about the beginning of the season. It means nothing to me. Few trades. Um, so yeah. BJ, I can't hear you.
I just realized I muted myself. But yeah, I mean, but that kind of fits right in with basketball and hockey as well, as same with baseball, which is the first couple months of it kind of doesn't matter because the season's so long and they play so many games. Like
Yeah.
what you just said is also obviously kind of going on with the NBA at the moment. The Celtics and the Suns have both reclaimed their spots as the best teams in the West and the East. The Celtics really look like a world beater right now, followed closely by the Bucks. Those two were kind of obvious. The Sixers have actually started making their rise now. The team I root for, they're now 6 in the Eastern Conference rankings, which is great, because they started the season, I think, like 0-3. The shocking teams are, I feel like, the Heat, the Net, the Bulls. Obviously, the Nets are dealing with all the weird off the field drama that has obviously affected their on the field play. The
Yeah, I'm surprised
Bulls,
about the Heat though, as well.
yeah, the Heat. I mean, there was a game a couple nights ago where Jimmy Butler just absolutely saved the game. He blocked 2 key shots right at the end that would have been buzzer beaters, probably, if they would have got off. But yeah, the Heat and Bulls both just felt like they were way better teams coming into this season. They might be able to course correct by the end of it, but I don't
The
know. They
Cavs are
just both
doing
feel
good for
off.
being a young team, as you talked about.
Well, the Cavs finally got Donovan Mitchell back. And so they're kind of starting to, they just lost a couple games. But again, they were to the Bucks. They were to or no, wait, no, the Bucks what was the game I was thinking of? Oh yeah, they lost 2 games to the Bucks and 1 to the Timberwolves, but they look like they're kind of gonna start getting back to what they were or earlier with Donovan Mitchell and the appearance or the you know emergence of him or coming
Just from
back
the
from injury.
standings, what it looks like. It looks like just the East is so much better than the West
Well, the
overall.
West, it's like the Warriors. I don't know what is going on with the Warriors this season. Same with the Timberwolves and Mavericks. Like they have that same weird 3 spot that I just talked about with the Heat and the Nets. Like the Warriors, the Timberwolves, and the Magic, and then the Jazz have just fallen from grace. I don't know what's going on with those 4 teams specifically. The Trailblazers and the Kings being above those 4 are surprising, but again, season's early. We might see them start coming back. Clippers are finally starting to regain a little bit of momentum, but yeah,
They
the
still are too
West.
early to tell.
Yeah, the West, it looks like it's going to be Suns. I don't know if I trust the Nuggets. They're fun to watch, but I don't know. Same with the Grizzlies. They're just such a young team. They obviously have Morant, and yeah, it really looks like it's just the Suns division to lose. The East looks like it's Boston, but obviously there's teams closer to them than closer to the Suns. But yeah, just so far it's been a good basketball season. Definitely unpredictable. So yeah, no real standouts except for Suns and then Celtics followed closely behind by the Bucks. Everything else is kind of, a toss up, but and then I did look up the Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has 5 more touchdowns. He has 29 throwing, 1 rushing, which gives him 30 touchdowns. He, however, has 8 interceptions. So I feel like Jalen Hurts is still the number 1 MVP because he has 5 fewer turnovers. Patrick Mahomes has 5 more touchdowns, but Jalen Hurts has 1 more win. So, and 1 less loss. So I don't know. I still feel I would go Hurts. Anything else we didn't cover, Casino?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and we will be back. I'll be posting this podcast Tuesday morning. Get all our podcasts Tuesday and Fridays. We'll be back on next episode to predict a fun-filled NFL weekend. We'll talk some more college, NHL, NBA, and then we will, just have another show. We'll also probably talk about the Monday and Thursday night games if they're good. Also, let's just in case we don't record till Friday, who do you think wins this Thursday with the Patriots and Bills? You know what? I think your Patriots pull it off. I'm going for the upset pick. I'm picking Patriots Casino. All right, this has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino. He's over there. And yeah, we'll see you next episode.